Hi YouTube, it's Ade here from Dale Skidmore Second-Hand Tyres. Welcome to part 13 of the boat restoration project. I've been scraping the underside of the hull. I've done down the side towards the front end and the bottom between the bilge runner and the keel, and it's going quite well. Most of the paint's coming off quite easy, and once I've done the scraping I should go back through with a sander. I've got an electric orbital sander, something like that, and also I'm making up a plank sander which I've seen used on boat making videos where they run it up and down, crisscross the hull to sand it smooth or fair it, which I'm going to try as well. I've got some 40 grit paper to put on it, so that's gluing up at the moment. I'll have a look at that in a bit when it's ready and try it out. So I'll get back to you then. Right, I've been using a trusty old iron as a weight. It's just a flexible piece of full 5.5mm plywood and a couple of grips on it. I just put some double-sided tape and some of this 40 grit off of the roll on it and give it a go. Well, that seems to be doing not too bad. Certainly cover a big area with it. Well, it's warm up here today. The old sander isn't too bad, but whilst I take a breather and try and wipe the sweat out of my eyes, I'd like to give a shout out to Johnny, Johnny's Wild Camping and Hiking channel. He's done some really good vids and they're nicely put together, and just recently, last week sometime, or early this week, he did this wonderful film hiking on the coast of Wales in some spectacular countryside, and with some beautiful shots and a bit of GoPro underwater stuff and that, and a music soundtrack that was just absolutely went with the film. It was a really good film, so I'd like to give a shout out to Johnny. I'll put a link, or put the his name of his channel on the film here. I can't say I'll put a link in because I don't know how to, but yeah, just say hi Johnny, and that was a great vid, and I enjoy watching what you get up to on your channel. Back to the sanding. Well, I think I'm starting to embrace technology, people. This is, I think it's about 50 quid, 49, 50 quid, plus a handful of the Velcro pads for sanding. On top of the hand scraping to get the worst off, the random orbital sander there is a great help up in the prow, especially where the scraper won't really touch it because they're the curves are concave rather than convex, and there's a little patch up the top there left to do with it, and I've started to look at the bilge runners about getting them off. They are rotten, but this side was a lot easier to clean off than the other side. Had to turn the boat around again because the light's better on this side and I can see what I'm doing, but the other side, the hull was, I think, better prepared and so it was quite difficult to get the paint off. Quite a lot of scraping involved in getting it down, and then using the orbital sander, and it just was, there was a lot of little crescent shaped divots in it, and I think they must have spent more time stripping off the old stuff on that side or preparing it for the coats that they put over the top. There was also quite a few places where I quickly went through through the gel coat, and I think I'd uncovered them rather than gone through myself. But certainly this side scraped off a lot easier and scraped back to the gel coat, and so I think they sort of did a lot of work on that side and then thought, oh, got to do the same all over again for this side, because really you've got to treat it in two halves, and they must have done a quicker job on this side. I don't know. Not that I'm complaining, because it made it a lot easier to work. It's a lot quicker doing this side than it was the other. And the orbital sander's brilliant. I've sort of seen other people using them and debated whether it was worth buying one or not. And in the end, I bit the bullet, and I'm glad I did. The, what's it called? Oh yeah, this is a fairing board, I believe it's called, or long sanding board. Is good for smoothing things out, and in fact there's probably some places I've got to put some filler, because there's some damage, and on the other side, like I say, where the little crescent shaped divots are, there's a lot of them in certain areas. At first I thought maybe it was where the boat had been beached on pebbles or something, but it's not dents, it's actual where it's been worn through with maybe a disc sander. I remember when I was at school, someone thought it was a good idea to clean all the graffiti off the desks, so they gave some of the lads a disc sander to level them off, and they came back, it was like a relief map of I don't know, somewhere like the Andes, and you couldn't ever write on them in a piece of paper anymore, because they've gone through the layers of the plywood, and it looked like more like a relief map than anything else. Maybe that place up, what is it, Brecon Beacons or something, funny as anything. But yeah, so there is some filler work to do. So when I've got the filler on, and then it's all gone off, the longboard sander will, because it will ride over the high spots and take them down back level with everything else. So it's a good thing actually. It does do a nice job of tidying things up. But now I've been just running the scriber along to get the rubber solution gluey stuff. I can't remember what it's called now. I've got a pot of it over there, and there is a lot of rock in the bilge runners, which was covered up by it, and there's probably is going to be in here as well under the keel, but that's coming out anyway. And I think this keel is actually a replacement anyway, especially going by the way the inside of the bottom looks. This on the inside is all nice and neat, and the screws are actually covered over by fiberglass, and here it looks like where the screws go through has been fiberglassed over in patches. I'm surprised that these are screwed in from the outside, because I would have thought it made sense to go in from the inside into the wood, and then there's a complete sort of like you rely on the waterproofness or lack of porosity in the wood to actually stop water coming in. But obviously these are screwed in, and these are the original bilge runners for the boat. I don't think they've been replaced, because it just doesn't look like they are. I can't actually get the screws out. The screws are pretty well fixed in, and the slots aren't particularly brilliant. They're bronze screws again, but I'm going to just probably cut through each side with a saw to get rid of them, and I shall get the replacement wood. I'm going to probably do them in oak, because I think this is oak. and that, like I say, is a replacement, and I think it's some sort of, I don't know, generic hardwood of some sort. It is quite soft, but that's not all because it's rot. That's because of the nature of the wood. Where it's rotten, it's definitely rotten. Here it's pretty good, but it's sort of some sort of generic hardwood, whereas this is definitely oak, and there's virtually no penetration apart from where it is soft from the rot. So that's the next job. There's a lot of mud under there, and I suggest using this scriber to dig around. That's the rubbery stuff, and it's called Sikaflex, and it's got a bit of a dent in it. Hopefully that will still go through on the gun. I'm obviously going to need more than just this one. Probably 2 or 3. I bought this one to start with. I've got to go back to the chandlers anyway to get the filler to use. I can't really get round the other side now to show you the divots, but you can see a patch here where the gel coat's gone through, and it's actually, you can feel a slight depression there, but I didn't actually spend any time at all. I just whizzed over it and it just came out, it just turned blue. So I'm pretty sure I never actually wore through that. There are places where I probably did, but it was very thin to start with. I was thinking when I started doing this, there are definitely 2 sides to a boat, an inside and an outside, and the nature of them is very different from each other in a lot of ways. It should be a quicker job to do this, maybe, but you know, strip it off and painting the outside like this. This is sort of like the side that's seen most. So and it's got to have undercoat, and then the overcoats, and it might need a couple of coats of undercoat even, plus any fill-in to do and fairing in. I don't know, it's a game of 2 halves, I suppose, as they would say. Well, there's certainly a lot of mud coming out from underneath the bilge runners. It is the only sensible thing to do to replace them. I've been up to the timber merchants where I got the wood for the rails from and had a look at their oak, and it's a bit of a conundrum now because I picked out a bit for replacing the runners, and the guy who I spoke to about getting it cut from a great long length, he said, oh, by the way, you know, this is white oak and it's not recommended for outdoor use. And I said, in the videos I've watched on YouTube from North America where they're making, there's a couple of 3 people I'm following who make boats, and they use white oak, and they specifically pick out white oak. And that Lou Sazzetti is one of them, the Total Blokes guy, what's it, Tales from Shipwright, whatever it is, excellent channel, and he uses white oak. This oak is sort of like a more browny coffee coloured than the oak that he uses, but there's no bark on any of this wood. It's all seasoned, I imagine kiln dried or something. The oak that I've seen being cut from logs has been, it's had like a chalky whiteness to the bark. So I chatted with the guy who, I think he must be the manager or something, and he said no, he says up until about 4 years ago people were using it on park benches and things, garden benches, but they reckon that it does rot quite easily, so it's recommended really for indoor use. So I'm pleased that they told me, but whether or not it's the same as the white oak that they're using in the North American films, I don't know. So he's given me a couple of places to look at locally for English oak, which definitely will be good for using on the runners and the keel. So I think probably I might end this one here. There's not much gone on, just a lot of scraping. It's a bit quicker than scraping the inside, definitely, but now we've got to look at getting the right wood for the rest of the woodwork on the outside. So I'll say thanks for watching, and I'll see you all soon. Cheerio.